soldiers who have died fighting Nazis. In the village of Krykovshina in the Kiev region, they have demolished a bas-relief of the Order of the Great Patriotic War from the memorial of warrior liberators. In the village of Putsile in the region of Chernovtsi, they
have taken off the head of the statue of a soldier in the memorial complex of the fallen Soviet warriors. This is just vandalism against the memorials.
On the 19th of November, the City Council of Odessa has adopted a new edition of the rule of territorial community of the city and exempted all mentions of the Russian Empire and the USSR from the text of the document. They've exempted all the mentions of the Russian Empire, the USSR, and the founding empress of the city, the Empress Ekaterina II, and other figures linked with them.
And there has been not a hint on the Russian language as part of a heritage of the heritage of the South Palmyra. And when they write school books, how will they be presenting that? Who founded Odessa? Maybe Odessa just exists by itself. The city was brought to the shore by the wave, fell from the sky. How will they describe that? The great city with outstanding monuments, architecture monument, with very beautiful streets and lanes, museums, monuments, and shopping centers. It was not connected to the Soviet Union. What will the date of foundation be? Maybe some neo-Banderite historians will work and maybe dig something from Neolithic time. Mykola was here and founded Odessa with such an inscription. So you remember the hymn of the city used to be the song about Odessa from White Acacia operetta, sung by Tatiana Shminga, music written by Isaac Dunayevsky, lyrics by Vladimir Mesa and Mikhail Chervinsky. So it was since 2011 the hymn of the city. Now they have chosen the legendary song Near the Black Sea, written in 1951 and translated into the Ukrainian language, written by poet Semyon Kirsanov and composer Modest Tabachnikov for the renowned singer Leonid Utosov. It used to be a very popular song for the city, characteristic of the city. Now it is called Cry Chornovo More in the Ukrainian folk version. So it's just similar to KVN game where the team of Zelensky played when he was young. Maybe they took something from his 95th quarter, when the melodies of old songs, they composed new texts based on those melodies. Is done at KVN and the other TV shows for people to laugh, not to take that seriously. But here it's mocking. Here that's just against the memory of the people who have created its glory. It's just mocking those who for centuries have enshrined the beauty of Odessa, enshrined it for centuries. And it's unlikely that the Ukrainian government will earn the respect of Odessa residents by such methods. It will just facilitate, speed up the Kiev regime. The lists of decolonization and decommunization of the followers of Bandera and Shukhevich, they're quite large, and the work is carried out there is just not writing those lists, but to destroy monuments, to destroy them one by one. It's also used as a cover for stealing money. This function is perfectly known in Ukraine. The less the population, the lower its cultural level, the better it is for Kiev authorities for these usurpators. But eventually, the monuments will be restored, and the Ukrainian people will demand from those usurpators the desecration of the memory of their ancestors' heroes, and mocking the outstanding sons of the past. From the 17th to the 19th of November in Washington, there was a visit by the group of priests of Ukrainian Orthodox churches. They discussed egregious violations of the rights of believers in Ukraine. The initiative was presented by the National Federation of Young Republicans of the United States. They mentioned the 2024 law about cancellation of the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, and a separate point is developing the guarantees of Kiev against Kiev measures against Christian and against clergy members. A number of Christian communities just supported this initiative, and also the Republican legislator Anna Paulina Luna. This information attracted the attention of US Vice President J.D. Vance. They were highlighted in an interview by Tucker Carlson with the renowned lawyer Robert Amsterdam. He described in detail what is happening in Ukraine in the religious sphere. In December at the Capitol, they plan to further discuss with legislators and Orthodox Christians from all over America the measures to protect the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. More than 200 Orthodox priests have been prosecuted in Ukraine since 2022. That's just because they are priests. Ukrainian schismatics, radicals and militants continue their cynical raids. On the 11th and 16th of November this year, 2 more Ukrainian Orthodox churches were captured. The Chernobyl Savior in Cherkasy and the Resurrection Cathedral in Moshne village of the Cherkasy region. Now, the order has been published of the head of the Freedom of Conscience Service in Ukraine, Viktor Yelensky, including Kiev Metropolia, Koretsky Trinity Women Patriarchal Monastery of the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, whose actions are banned legally. The court hearing will take place on the 11th of December, but they try to put pressure on legal authorities in order to just begin the crackdown on the Kiev Metropolitanate and then the entire Ukrainian Orthodox Church. But why did they call their service the Freedom of Conscience Service? Maybe they have just got rid of conscience themselves, have long ago got rid of that. The aforementioned fact confirmed the urgency of the tasks of denazification and demilitarization of Ukraine and the elimination of threats from its territory. All these goals will certainly be achieved, as Russian government officials have repeatedly stated. Now regarding the situation in Moldova, this Euro integration and NATO rapprochement policy, intimidation of the people, intimidation by the mythical Russian threat. On the 18th of November, the President of the Republic, Maya Sandu, said that Russia is trying to intimidate the Moldovans by the war and to organize violent actions. But when? Who has said that? Or has been telling that? On the territory of the Russian Federation, or from the territory of the Russian Federation, with power, with authorities, maybe they will just name just one name, one surname, and there has been no proof presented, not a quotation, nothing. And gratitude has been expressed to the EU and NATO for the rearmament of the country and the growth in military spending. Mikhail Papshoy, foreign minister, also confirmed the importance of discussion on the neutrality of Moldova and the readiness to discuss its value for ensuring security. But actually neutrality has no value actually, yes. You should just ignore all the history of the 20th century, just to close the door and never look there. And then you can invent any concoctions against that background. So the Moldovan citizens, they are just ready to discuss that. Because 70% of the Republic citizens do not support the idea of NATO accession, and 78% support the preservation of neutrality. It is where the Moldovan people are more clever than their authorities. Because contrary to Sandu and Papshoy, who just accuse us without any quotations or links, we just support our statements by concrete quotations, by concrete links. On the 17th of November, the construction of a new ammunition depot was started at the military training ground near the city of Balti in northern Moldova. On the 20th of November, at the customs checkpoint Elbița-Laușane, on the border between Moldova and Romania, munitions were found in a truck and weapons, lethal weapons. It has been reactive storm grenades, hand grenade launchers, Russian portable missile complexes Igla, and anti-tank missile complexes Coronet, and their parts, it was just cleared as metallic constructions with the destination Israel. The Moldovan army does not use such weapons and munitions, and it's just the Kiev regime participating in illegal weapons turnover, and the country is just a transit base for such military shipments. And it could be a basis for some future provocation in order to just drop the elements of weapons and munitions produced in Russia, and then as Sandu likes that, to mention there are no facts now, but from this cargo they could have been invented and then reproduced like on a 3D printer. The militarization of the Republic, together with the aggressive Russophobia, are the main reference points for the current Moldovan authorities. The most tragic thing is this so-called Euro integration project. The regime representatives are just destroying the ties with Russia that have proved its efficiency. Actually, the Republic has received a lot of benefit from the CIS integration. The GDP growth in 2011-2021 period was 40.9%. That's including the pandemic's year. Up to 2% of this growth was assured by the CIS integration processes. And then Chisinau, since February 2022, stopped its participation within the Commonwealth. And there are brave people who are just accusing Russia of alleged problems in the Moldovan economy. The import from Russia decreased by 78.6% since 2021, and export from Moldova to Russia fell by 59.5% and amounted to 3.3% of the total export volume. And since 2022, the Moldovan economy has been in the red and is only kept afloat thanks to EU payments. It's not just payments, it will be credits, loans to be paid by future generations of the Moldovans. I beg your pardon, those whom Sandu has said to call the Romanians. It's not for the benefit of the economy in order to improve, but it's alleged aid that is killing the economy, the industry of Moldova, because it's aggravating the situation, and all those coincidences. I mean, the Moldovan economy within the CIS space, it has flourished, but it has been moving towards development, but after it quitting this CIS space, it has started to degrade. It was the invented course allegedly to save, and it will just influence the Moldovans themselves, who out of desperation are leaving Moldova en masse and search for better life, just trying to make the use of their talents where it is possible, because they understand that they do not have the future in their own country, in Moldova. It's really sad to see that the Brussels proxies are turning Moldova, that used to be prosperous with the developed agriculture and industry, into another colony from where they just can take away what has not been stolen. And to twist people's arms by those loans, by those credits. And now let us see what is happening with the European Union. You just remember that it has been created as an economic bloc. It used to be called the European Economic Union. They sought to improve the well-being of their citizens, to minimize the losses, but now it's being turned into an appendage of NATO, pursuing a confrontational foreign policy.
Under the pretext of a made-up, as once again, of a fictitious Russian threat, the EU authorities recently have been sending unprecedented funds to military purposes, according to European Defence Agency. In 2024, the overall defense expenses of the EU countries have grown by 19% compared to 2023 and have amounted to 343 billion euros. In 2025, they will reach 381 billion euros. However, European economy experiences a protracted stagnation, which doesn't allow for the governments of the EU countries to increase the revenues of national budgets. The share of EU in the world GDP and the buying capacity parity, according to IMF, has decreased from 70% in 2011 to 14% in 2025. This is what happens to those who resort to sanctions, thinking of themselves as world elite. In 2024, the EU GDP has increased only by 1%. In 2025 and 2026, according to the forecast of the European Commission, the picture will not diverge significantly. The economic growth expected at the level of 1.4% in the European zone and 1.4% and industrial manufacturing and the production in the EU in 2024 has contracted by 2.5%. They also are still challenges in the area of state finances. The aggregated deficit of state budgets of the EU countries in relation to GDP will grow to 3.3% in 2025, and the maximum allowable level legally established at the EU is 3%. The estimates of state debt in relation to GDP will increase from 82.2% up to a record high of 83.2%, despite the fact that according to EU rules it shouldn't exceed 60%. But they have not criticized this situation. This is not the same as fighting human rights violations in their own space. That's the thing that they don't like and don't appreciate. The thing that they do like is to meddle in others' affairs and to provide another grant to another media piece that will investigate the properties of an economic decline in other countries. It's telling that the largest economies of the EU, Italy, France and Belgium, Spain, have been among the countries with the highest ratio of state debt to GDP, all above 100%. According to EU statistics, 27.5 million of residents of the bloc in 2024 have faced serious material complications in around 47 million Europeans couldn't afford heating in a significant measure in their houses. The key energy deficient areas of EU industry, the chemical industry, the steel making industry, car manufacturing experience great difficulties. The EU countries have to overpay 2 or 3-fold for energy and 2 to 4 or 5-fold for gas. It is very difficult for them to stay afloat. In this situation, the growth of military expenses is only possible through the decrease in other budget categories, primarily social ones. Every euro invested in the manufacturing of munitions, missiles and drones is a euro that has been extracted from education system, from health, from pensions and migration reform. It begs the question, what is the state of those countries? Are they either they are at war, in a hybrid war, or B, they are going into a war, or C, if they are preparing for peace, if they are supporting peace, standing for peace? They have to make this clear. At the same time, the EU and its member countries are actively resorting to state loans to finance these rearmament programs The current military expenditure is being laid upon the shoulders of future generations, and everyone is silent about that. The children and grandchildren of current EU citizens will be bearing the brunt of this debt, slavery, and this will be especially difficult against the backdrop of demographic tendencies in the European Union, the aging of the population, which will lead for more exertion of pressure against the pension system. Also, they are experiencing the decrease in the working population and low birth rates. But they don't care about that. Through increasing their military expenses, the EU, as they claim, are expecting to revitalize the economy. I will once again remind everyone that officially they are not in a state of war, in a state of any battle or holding any operation. No. Officially, they are at peace and in complete tranquility, and they're calling for everyone to do the same. However, to receive long-term effect and to explain the rationality of this militarization, they are forced to maintain this conflict potential both in the European region and the entire world. It's clear that the cultivation of the mythical Russian threat is of great benefit to the current EU leadership. It distracts the population, the European electorate, from the deep internal social economic problems that they are not keen on resolving, or at least they don't know how to. The main profiteers, main beneficiaries of this militarization are the leading military and industrial establishments of the EU and the US that are clearly linked with the political establishment in these countries. They are gaining huge profits on huge state contracts, ensuring record profits, and all the while all other sectors of the economy are severely lacking in investments. Under the pretext of security concerns, the financing of defense in the EU is non-transparent, which is fraught with high corruption risks. We remember the same story with the anti-COVID vaccines in Europe. That's the thing that is going on with the militarization of the EU. They're sending the very same SMS by Madam Ursula, Madam Kaya, and other members of the ruling circles and some members of the political elites that have entrenched themselves in the power. That is the same way that they are making decisions. They are completely non-transparent for the entire populace. The information space in the West is almost completely sanitized from alternative points of view. As a result, the population of European countries is in a complete informational vacuum or limbo. By 2030, they're expecting to invest more than 1 trillion euros into the defense production, defense manufacturing, volumes comparable to the military programs of the Nazi Germany on the eve of the Second World War. This ramping up of arms race and military psychosis and confrontation logic is undermining the security of the EU countries and increases the dangers of involving them into a full-fledged armed conflict, which will lead to a collapse of Europe. Our experts have prepared a detailed report on the anti-Russian activity of more than 20 countries of the European Union. It will be published in the extended version of the briefing. Please take attention to that. There have been a lot of questions related to the fires in the residential complexes of Hong Kong, which resulted in injuries among Russian citizens. The General Consulate in Hong Kong is actively looking into the matter. There is no information as of now regarding any Russian victims. Our foreign policy establishment is looking closely into this event. We would like to express our sincere condolences to those afflicted in the district of Taipo. It is our sincere wish that all those afflicted will regain their health as soon as they can. Also, there have been a lot of questions regarding the situation in Guinea-Bissau. Moscow is concerned about the aggravation of internal policy situation in the Republic against the backdrop of presidential parliamentary elections. According to information we received, the president of the country was detained on November 26 by a group of members of the military, which have claimed all the executive authority in the countries. They have introduced martial law. We are carefully looking at the situation, and we call on all actors in Guinea-Bissau to express restraint, to maintain law and order. The Embassy of Russia in Guinea-Bissau is taking all necessary measures to ensure security of all the members, of families, of employees, and all employees and compatriots in that country. Now a couple of words on Germany and the history of Second World War. We have always thought that the places of evidence depicting the crimes of the Nazi regime that have been mentioned in the documents of the Nuremberg Tribunal. I mentioned this previously because the world knows all too well what was the Second World War. Everyone remember that with dignity. The tribunal in Nuremberg addressed it, and we've been regularly addressing the documents, archive documents. We already mentioned in detail about the new information that we have in that regard. The victims of the Hitlerites that have suffered from the Holocaust and other genocides committed against the peoples of the Soviet Union deserve special honoring and memory. The things that happen currently shows that the current authorities are not sincere about their penance. In the North Rhine-Westphalia, there was an auction of the victims of the Holocaust and those who have died due to the actions of the Nazis. This is not explicitly forbidden by law. Initially, hundreds of documents from the collection of the private researcher of this era. There are documents on the forced sterilization and the yellow star of prisoner of Buchenwald were all listed as items for sale. It's difficult for me to say this. This yellow star was worn out. Also among the items were a Gestapo member card from July 1942. Everything listed, all those traces of wear in the yellow Star of David, all those materials, effects that have been listed as items for sale, they were listed for a price of 350 euros. It is puzzling. In 2000 years, the price of treason did not inflate, but rather deflate. At the same time, the scope of this treachery was preserved. Also among the items was a letter of an Auschwitz prisoner for 180 euros. I don't know what to call it, extreme cynicism or what, or perhaps something else. I don't know. I can't even tell you. Perhaps there's a term for that, but it hasn't been invented yet. How to describe this in the terminology of humanity, profiteering from the selling of intimate thoughts of people that have been doomed to suffer. Also for sale were the documents belonging to criminals. I understand the collectors, they perhaps amassed these items through different means, and these items could be collected by people that are appreciating historical value. The question is, perhaps it's the lack of legislation in that regard played a cruel joke on this, and the absence of legal settlement, legal framework, perhaps didn't beg the question of actual morality of this. But didn't anyone, neither the collectors nor the auction houses that prepared the auction, didn't they have the idea, at least, that even in case the collectors needed money, perhaps for investment, perhaps for something else, couldn't they just address the museums, the memorials and foundations of protection of memory of victims of the Second World War, victims of the Holocaust? Just like that, and just within normal human communication? Or there is some ultra-liberal new ethics completely clouded their brains, leaving nothing of human behind? Why do they need this delicacy, why do they need this delicate approach? Why do they need all this privacy, confidentiality, humanity that they are parading around? Protection from all types of harassment. Why do they need it? If everything this was invented by humans, it was invented for this. For cases like this, it's a very example where all aforementioned ideas could be at play. I assure you that any museum in Russia, any collector in Russia who is linked to these events, it would only take one letter, one message for our historians, for our collectors, for our museum curators, to immediately react in a constructive manner, to do anything for these evidences, for these testaments of great tragedy and great heroism at the same time, evidence of heinous crimes by Nazism and heroism by liberators could receive their deserved place in museum and memorial complexes. Because this is a thing that has been proven by our country time and time again. From the creation of new exhibitions and the revitalization of old ones, to the daily labor of searchers and categorizers who are doing these things on their own in the archives, in the field, in libraries. We've proven time and time again that we honor the historical memory and respect it. No, they just decided to auction it. First, they robbed these items, destroyed everything, and 80 years later, once again, they wanted to profit of the evidence of their own crimes, and to profit from human tragedy. Once again, it was made just a good for sale. And just pragmatically thinking, what if someone who wanted to destroy this evidence bought it? What if those items were purchased by someone who wanted to relish in the suffering of the victims of those tragic events? When this information was made public, the official Berlin was quick to display indignation to avoid this damage to its international image, but they were too late. They are representing they're represented by people who are proud of their Nazi heritage, including those personalities like Anna Burbach. And we say this because we judge them by their deeds.
So that's one more example. And it's not an accident. It's just a regular situation. The same German authorities, German political elites, for many years they have turned a blind eye to an obvious problem. It's not a problem, it's their tragedy. It's not our problem, it's their problem and their tragedy. Non-payment of compensations to the victims of the siege of Leningrad, because they have decided to make those payments only based on national grounds by dividing the victims. It's just not humane to divide the victims to those who can receive compensations and those who cannot do that. Unfortunately, the ideology of the Third Reich has not gone into the past. It's the same thing. It has been confirmed by the previous decisions. For example, the decision not to admit the genocide of the Soviet people. Our grandfathers and fathers liberated Auschwitz. They just won over Nazism in Europe, and it's unacceptable for us. And we call upon everyone who remains loyal to the judgments of the Nuremberg Tribunal to remember about the bloody crimes of Hitler and his satellites, and not to allow the harassment of the memory of the victims. And we just, contrary to this heinous manifestation of the worst atrocities by the German, and nowadays it's the ideology, the glorification of the memory of the true heroes. And we are doing that together with German people, together with those who have conscience. On the 14th of November in Labos, at the Soviet War Memorial, at the presence of Russian ambassador to Germany, Sergei Nechayev, the remains of Red Army soldiers who died in April 1945 during the Berlin offensive were ceremoniously reburied, and also the forced laborers, forced by Nazis, victims of their crimes, they were reburied. Those remains were found during the search works in Germany. They were discovered, and they were identified because of memorial plaques with the names of the victims, and commemorative ceremonies were attended by local citizens. It's a testimony of German citizens not to consider the Russophobia planted by Baerbock and similar politicians who do not treat it seriously, and who are grateful for the liberation from a brown plague by Soviet soldiers. And we are aware that the true future of Germany is theirs, the true future of Germany, not those who oriented towards the worst things in the past of this country, but fighting neo-Nazism, fighting fascism. One more important date, 20-year anniversary of the Treaty on Alliance Relations with the Republic of Uzbekistan. One of the basic documents between Russia and Uzbekistan was signed on the 14th of November 2005. It elevated the interaction between Russia and Uzbekistan to a qualitatively new allied level. The invaluable personal input is made by the heads of the two states. Our relations are based on a solid framework, legal treaty framework. It includes around 350 international treaties and interdepartmental agreements. The Treaty on Interstate Relations, Friendship and Cooperation, the Treaty on Strategic Partnership, the Declaration on Comprehensive Partnership between Russia and Uzbekistan, where the priority areas of bilateral partnership are enshrined. We're united by military, political, trade, economic and humanitarian ties. The joint commission at the level of the heads of governments of Russia and Uzbekistan is operating, and the Intergovernmental Commission on Economic Cooperation is an important instrument for cooperation. We also cooperate within the CIS, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the UN, BRICS, and the Eurasian Economic Union, where Tashkent is an observer, and a roundtable discussion was held in Tashkent on the 14th of November this year, with the participation of Russian Ambassador Alexei Yerhov, the director of the Center of Foreign Political Investigations, Foreign Political Research and International Initiatives of Uzbekistan Foreign Ministry Sanjar Valiyev, think tanks and branches of Russian universities, and it was about development of our ties in different formats and cooperation in different areas, and the highest level contacts that will come in the future. One more important event that took place on the 19th of November in Republika Srpska, RT Doc Film Festival, the Time of Our Heroes. I would remind you the first one was held in May. Russian Ambassador Igor Kolabukhov, Speaker of National Assembly of the Republic of Srpska, Nenad Stevanovic, participated, as well as representatives of municipal authorities, science, culture figures, young people. There were video addresses by Minister of Culture Olga Lyubimova, Head of RT Corporation Margarita Simonyan, Head of Rosotrudnichestvo Evgeny Primakov, and representatives of the Russian Foreign Ministry also addressed the participants. The films demonstrated War, Russians and Serbs, Blood and Faith by Olga Kiri. The film reflecting our joint aspects of our friendship, Russian and Serbian friendship, as well as the film Fortress of Faith, about human courage and about mutual help by people in military times. There was an enthusiastic response by the public. They are now united by compassion, indifference towards the Donbass protectors. The stories demonstrated just testify of common ideals and the strong ties that unite the Russian Federation and the Republic of Srpska. I would like to mention one more premiere that is to come today. Today is the day, the 27th of November 2025, in Moscow. The Studio 12 of Nikita Mikhalkov will host the ceremony of the Open Eurasian Film Award Diamond Butterfly, the key event of the Eurasian Academy of Cinematographic Arts. The diamond butterfly we have mentioned in details on the sidelines of the Vladivostok Forum, and now it has come, and now it will visit many talented people. This prize has been, this award has been initiated by the Russian Ministry of Culture and the Russian Cultural Fund. The initiator is Nikita Mikhalkov. The diamond butterfly facilitates the preservation of cultural memory of people and fostering the spiritual development of viewers. It's for cinema figures, cinema personalities from all countries. Today there will be surprises as promised by the organizers. This prize is open for representatives of all countries who share our common moral values. Requests for participation have been made by 17 countries: Belarus, Venezuela, Vietnam, Indonesia, Iran, Kyrgyzstan, China, Cuba, Pakistan, Russia, Senegal, Serbia, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Turkey, Uzbekistan, and South Africa. They have presented 34 films. There will be special awards, and there will be 12 categories, including a prize for contribution to world cinema. The main aim of the art of cinema is not just commercial success, it's just a possibility, opportunity to preserve the cultural heritage and to reveal universal meanings. One more topic, the Patrice Lumumba People's Friendship University of Russia new education center has been opened. It will allow, it has been opened in Bangui. It will allow to increase the sphere of knowledge of Russian culture and Russian language, and to contribute to the development of friendship and cooperation between the two countries, Russia and the Central African Republic. Now I would mention that the Russian Military Historical Society has conducted an event on preserving the historic memory in the Lutheran Cemetery in St. Petersburg. The tomb of the renowned Russian diplomat Andrei Badberg has been restored. It was done within the framework of the organization Remember Everyone by Name. And then there was the ceremony of the exhibition of General Diplomat Minister, exhibition dedicated to Andrei Badberg, who participated in the Russo-Turkish War in 1768-1764, was awarded in the Battle of Kagul in 1770, awarded the Order of St. George of the Fourth Class in 1770, and as an envoy of Russia in Sweden, he participated in clarifying the borders between the two states and facilitated the Gatchina Allied Treaty on military aid. His diplomatic talent was valued by Empress Catherine the Great in 1806-1808. He was the head of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Russian Empire. He contributed to the forming of anti-Napoleonic coalition and was present during the signing of the Peace Treaty of Tilsit in 1807. During the events in St. Petersburg, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Russia was represented by the head of the Department for Liaisons with the constituent entities of the Russian Federation, Igor Kapirin. The work to preserve the historical memory is being carried out further, and soon we will create the relevant section. Now regarding the Mauritania Independence Day. Our relations are of friendly and constructive nature. They are steadily developing. Our countries share a commitment to fundamental principles and norms of international law, political and diplomatic methods for resolving conflicts, with the UN playing a central role. The multi-level political dialogue is preserved. In October 2024, the President of Mauritania visited Russia, and in Kazan he had a meeting with Vladimir Putin. And in February 2023, the Islamic Republic of Mauritania was visited by Minister Lavrov. Efforts are taken in order to strengthen our cooperation. Its first most important area is fishing. Humanitarian cultural ties are also developed, and the quota for grants by Mauritanian citizens has been increased by the Russian government to 50 places. In Sochi, in November 2024, a memorandum, interministerial memorandum, has been signed in culture. I would like to congratulate our Mauritanian friends on their independence and wish them peace, well-being and prosperity. Now the anniversary of the Lao People's Democratic Republic, the 50th anniversary of the proclamation of independence. They have gained independence from French colonial rule. It was just brutal aggression in Indochina. The patriotic forces have won in 1975 and proclaimed the Lao People's Democratic Republic. The diplomatic relations between Russia and Laos were established on the 7th of October 1960. The Soviet Union provided unwavering support to the Lao National Liberation Movement, and our country contributed to the development of the young state, strengthening its economic capacity, and major industrial sites have been constructed in Laos with the help of Soviet specialists, and educational institutions also are developing, and the cooperation between Russia and Laos is multidimensional. On the 9th of March 1994, the Treaty on the Foundation of Friendly Relations was signed, and on the 13th of October 2011, the Declaration on Strategic Partnership in the Asia-Pacific region. And there was a meeting between President Putin and the General Secretary of the Central Committee of the Lao People's Revolutionary Party during his official visit in July, his official visit to our country, and a meeting with the Lao Prime Minister during his attendance of the 10th Eastern Economic Forum in Vladivostok in September. So those meetings were held in meetings on foreign issues between the ministries of foreign affairs of Russia and Laos were held 2 times in June and July. Now our specialists are assisting in demining Laos from unexploded mines. We have detailed on that during the briefing on the 20th of November. We'll post a link in the text of today's briefing. And on the 2nd of December in Vientiane, a number of events are to be held, and the Russian delegation will be headed by Deputy Chair of the Federation Council, Nikolai Zhuravlov. We wish our Lao friends all the best, and we will continue our commitment to ensuring stability and security in Asia-Pacific region. One more announcement. On the 3rd and the 4th of December, A large-scale forum will be held in Moscow, Counter-Terrorism Conference, national and regional counter-terrorism strategies amid emerging security challenges and threats. It is held based on the initiative adopted during the presidency of our country in BRICS, and it is aimed at increasing the counter-terrorism security. The forum will unite more than 100 delegates from countries that are participants and partners in BRICS, and the forum will be attended by high-ranking colleagues from the UN Counter-Terrorism, the SCO Regional Anti-Terrorist Structure, the CIS Anti-Terrorism Center, and the CSTO Secretariat. The discussions will be attended by a monitoring group of the UNSC 1267, 1989, 2253 sanctions committees on ISIS and Al-Qaeda, and in 1988 on the Taliban movement.
The conference will serve as a unique platform to have a trusted and depoliticized discussion of a broad scope of relevant issues of counter-terrorist agenda. Particularly, there will be special focus to the aspects of forming progressive theoretical and methodological approaches to counter-terrorism, the increase of efficiency of joint work to prevent financial and economic nourishing of terrorist activity. The participants will exchange their estimates and evaluations of existing terrorist and extremist threats in the regional global tracks, and will share best practices in the area of fighting the spread of destructive ideology, including internet. The central element of the forum will be the roundtable dedicated to the experience of international organizations in elaborating collective principles and regional strategies in counterterrorism. The participants will focus on different initiatives and projects directed to improve cooperation to neutralize modern challenges and threats. We view the upcoming conference to be Russia's contribution to the carrying out of anti-terrorist strategy of BRICS in 2020 and the plan of its implementation 2021 and the positional document of the BRICS Working Group on Counterterrorism 2024. We're convinced that the event will give additional impulse to the multifaceted dialogue in fighting terrorism in the format of BRICS Plus, and also underline the key role that the countries are playing with their partners and colleagues in the global efforts to maintain international peace and security. And I am ready to answer your questions. Is International Affairs Journal with us today? Yes, good afternoon, Madam Zakharova. Greetings. Recently, Secretary General of NATO Mark Rutte said that the conflict in Ukraine is possible to end it until the end of 2025. At the same time, Mr. Rutte said that the peace plan doesn't evaluate Russia as a long-term threat to Europe. How would you comment on this statement? I just wanted to ask a qualifying question to them. Are they standing for peace or for war? The statement that Russia will remain a threat to NATO after the Ukrainian conflict was mentioned and made many times, repeatedly by the NATO leadership. This has been enshrined in doctrine documents of the alliance, where they have written that Russia will remain a long-term security threat in all operational senses. It's comical. It sounds comical, but it is what it is. They've proclaimed this as their goal. Why are they doing this? It's clear. They're doing this so that they will not be able, so that they avoid justifying broad militarization and the increase of military expenses. The fictional Russian threats will be ramped up, blown out of proportion more and more. The Europeans are already reminded of the imminent attack of Russia every time. They are now saying that it's completely imminent. They are saying that Russia will not stop in Ukraine, will attack the country members of NATO. I just wanted to remind everyone how this was developing. Russia for 7 years called on the carrying out of Minsk agreements, and instead of Minsk agreements we saw the huge increases in strikes against the peaceful population in Donbass, and responding to that, Russia made written propositions and relate them through OSCE to try to follow the peaceful path, but we were forced to react after not receiving any reaction. Immediately getting a reaction, immediately getting a response as if we've been engaged in, it is us that was engaged in aggression. In addition to that, so that they could anchor their opinion in something, we saw the fact that instead of normal dialogue and the implementation of what has been agreed upon, we received only mass shellings of Russian-speaking population amounting to nothing short of extermination. That was the thing for 7 years until it ended in 2022. This has all been recorded. We all clearly remember how it all started. And now we hear the same song. We are tired of repeating the same thing, that we have no such intentions of attacking Europe. We will not allow ourselves to be bullied. We will not we've been patient for 7 years, and at least online through the internet we tried to reach them, reach the central discussion platforms or central UN platforms, and even then we were rejected. But there were no aggressive tendencies that they are trying to portray us having. However, NATO expansion is still a threat to us, and they are shying away from mentioning that in greater detail. NATO's desire to engulf Ukraine is also a threat to us. The member of this country in an aggressive military alliance, the entire essence of which is to counter our country, is unacceptable to us. Once again, the essence of NATO is to counter our country, is to not counter the so-called aggression of Russia, but just an overt opposition to our country in all areas, all in the vein of the declared policy of strategic defeat of Russia. The fact that Mark Rutte is optimistic about the possibility of ending the conflict in Ukraine in the near future doesn't mean anything in rough sense of the word, because we've accustomed to the fact that he has been saying completely diametrically opposite things depending on the situation. We don't see any changes in their overall attitude, including in the taking into account that NATO are trying to torpedo the negotiating process on the settlement of Ukrainian conflict. I think that the amount of leaks and the amount of public rhetoric speaks for itself, and all attempts to have a diplomatic and political settlement or contacts cause an immediate hysteria in the information space in Europe, and some convulsions that serve to hamper the progress, to demolish even the most humble tendencies towards peace. Thank you. Thank you. Is RIA Novosti next? Yes. Yes, good afternoon. Christian Lardigis, RIA Novosti. We have 2 questions today. My first question is that during the recent statement in the Japanese Parliament, the Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi refused to confirm Tokyo's commitment to the three non-nuclear principles, which was taken as a possibility of their re-evaluation, also resulted in the strong reaction on the part of the PRC. How would you comment on the situation? We'll hear some interesting statements from Japan almost every day, and in conditions where the government of Japan is intent on remilitarizing, and even the very idea of the review question of the evaluation of the non-nuclear commitments of Tokyo provokes a growth of tension in the Asia-Pacific region. There is no doubt that practical steps in that avenue, if they will be taken, will result in inevitable consequences for the global scale in the area of strategic security. It was weird to see from Tokyo some provocative statements. It was weird to hear as head of state that used to support the non-proliferation regime in the past and called on the world community to have complete nuclear disarmament. I know that priorities change, but I just wanted to know if they have completely parted with the previous agenda they've had for decades. It's obvious that it talks about the potential re-evaluation of the three non-nuclear principles completely completely cross with this line and undermine the positions of Japan in the platform of the non-proliferation treaty. We see how the residents of Hiroshima and Nagasaki were worried about this rhetoric because they remember that nuclear bombs were falling from the sky, but they also remember that people were launching them, that the airplanes were sent from the territory of the United States of America. They remember the consequences of this terrible, horrible tragedy in the history of humanity that shouldn't be repeated. They yearly honoring the victims of the United States nuclear bombardment. They are trying to say that this is all in the past and are softly moving the question towards blaming Russia for that. But the residents in the cities remember how it really happened. Traditionally, as you know, that the Japanese Prime Minister is invited to those ceremonies. I just wanted to ask once again